one thing I think that they're smart with or calculated with, if they hit you with the Xenu story on day one, that would be a problem. It's not as if that's the day one. Then I would fall back on, you would probably have to be pretty dumb to fall for that if that was your first pitch. But like you said, $300,000 in and probably multiple years later, you get exposed to that incrementally over time. The trying to improve the world philosophy, I can understand how that's appealing to people. Improving yourself, of course, what's wrong with that? But, you know, in addition to you being the vice mayor and the chairman, you're also an award-winning journalist. So there's their pitch. Can you talk to me a little bit about the abuses, though, that you have reported on over the years, which is the counterpoint to their pitch of improving the world?
Well, you know, Lisa McPherson was one of the major things we're talking about. But as far as how the organization operates, it is a mind control factory. And every member, whether you're in the Sea Org, where you sign a billion-year contract to work for Scientology in exchange for $50 a week, and you're crammed into an apartment with, 3 triple bunk beds, and you got tons of roommates in this tiny space that really can't handle it. Your life is devoted to working long hours, 6 days a week for Scientology and studying L. Ron Hubbard's words. Whether you're that person or you're Tom Cruise, Scientology is the same for everyone. It's the same tech that you're supposed to be dealing with. And this mind control factory is really insidious. When you get in, you'll normally get in through a stress test. When you meet somebody on the street, they'll say, you know, why don't you sit down here and talk about something that's giving you a problem? And they'll put you on the e-meter. They'll find out what is troubling you. And they say, well, why don't you come on over here? We can help you with that problem. And they'll sign you up for what's called the communication course normally, where they teach you how to listen and respond as a Scientologist. And the first course is not terribly expensive. You're surrounded by happy, bubbly people who think, isn't this, they're bombarding you with, isn't this wonderful? Oh my God, wait till you take the next course and the next course. And you get more and more isolated. And each step of the way, and this is one of the truly insidious things that Hubbard came up with, after every course, you have to sit down and write up your win. So at the end of the communication course, you put in writing, I learned how to communicate better because of this. And then when you start to have doubts down the line, they will pull out all those, all your folders and say, look at all the wins you've had. You don't want to give up now because, you know, the next course is really going to help you enormously. And when you have a doubt on what happened in this course, where you were promised you'd be able to do a certain thing, and that hasn't happened yet, they say, that's explained in the next course. And with those blinders on, you just keep moving forward. And those blinders are really insidious in themselves. They do what's called security checks on an e-meter. And they'll ask you questions like, have you ever had a negative thought about L. Ron Hubbard? And if that shows up on the meter, well, you have a lot of work to do to get yourself back in the good graces. And they're going to explain to you how you're mistaken, that Hubbard was right on this topic. Or if you have doubts on another thing, they can say, well, here's what Hubbard wrote about it. And you find that you put the blinders on because if you don't do that, your doubts are going to be showing up on the e-meter, and you're going to have to spend a lot of money to go through extra auditing solve that situation. So you start to close yourself off to say, well, I don't want to hear anything negative. I don't want to see anything negative. It's working for me, and that's all I need to know. Until it doesn't work for them, until there's some situation where, whether it's, somebody, you have to disconnect from somebody in your family, a wife and a husband may be forced to disconnect because one of them has doubts, and Scientology will say, dump them. I've interviewed people like that. There's a married couple of dentists in Chicago. They got in through a Hubbard management seminar where the Scientology isn't mentioned at all. It's a way for these people to go and talk to chiropractors and dentists and people like that who don't have any business training. Doctors do. Medical doctors get some training in how to run an office through their education. But dentists and chiropractors don't. So Scientology says, we know how to run your business and help you make money.
Oh, interesting.
They sign up for that course. Then they start to hire Scientologists to staff the dentist office. These people then on staff know exactly how much money the dentists are making. So they report back to Scientology so they know how much to suck out of them. And Scientology's whole business system, whether it's Scientology itself or what they teach these people in the management companies, is hard sell. For the dentists, they don't need to have this procedure done now. Well, they're going to need to have it done at some point. Sell it to them now. Sell everything now. And at some point, that's going to ricochet back and bite you in the ass, because your customers are going to start to go, well, wait a minute, I can't afford this. But until they've bled those customers dry, and Scientology's managed to bleed the dentist dry, Scientology is sitting pretty. That's not a good business model for the long term, but it does cause a lot of damage in people's lives. I don't know that I'm necessarily answering your question.
No, you are. A follow-on question from that would be, how much of that, structuring this like a business, looking at it through the lens of financial, how much of that do you think comes from L. Ron Hubbard, and how much of it do you think comes from Miscavige?
Oh, everything's from Hubbard. Miscavige,
you think he's just playing his game? He's just playing out the template that L. Ron Hubbard had created?
Yeah, but the thing is, when Hubbard released a new level on the bridge, and people would come up and say, I don't know, I'm not sure that I'm getting what I'm supposed to get from this. Hubbard had the advantage of being able to say, but I'm working on the next level right now, and that's going to handle it. So he could always write something new. And he was continually coming up with new policies, new levels, and new courses. Miscavige can't do that because Hubbard is the source. Mm-hmm. So what Miscavige can only do is repackage things and do the hard sell to say, well, we found a lot of mistakes in the previous publications. There were a lot of missed commas. There were sentences that were put in the wrong spot. We've gone and we've republished everything, and you now have to buy a whole new set of books. You have to buy 3 sets, so you have one, and you can sell a couple others to friends and family. So they'll bleed people dry that way. And there's always the push to raise money for a new building, to fill the coffers to fight evil suppressive persons like me. So they're constantly being regged. That's it's what they call their sales force registrars. And when you get regged, you're put in a room and not allowed to leave until you've given them the money that they want. There was one woman that we interviewed back in 2000, a German woman, Italian, I'm sorry, named Maria Pia Gardini. Her daughter got into Scientology, and she had a drug problem. And Scientology said, we can handle that. The mom then joined Scientology, even though her daughter died from a drug overdose. And Scientology said, we can help you with your grief. This woman was, a millionaire, but she signed a billion-year contract to work and live in poverty. And every week, Thursday mornings, they would take her down to a windowless room in the Fort Harrison, lock her in there with a reg, and demand that she write another check for $10,000. Even though she was working for $50 a week for them, she couldn't get out of that room until she wrote another check. This is an evil corporation. They bled her dry. And then the woman who was her reg showed up one day in a fancy new sports car that she was able to buy through the money she made on commissions. Scientology is not a religion. It's a religiously themed business where people get commissions off of donations to the church. They should be taxed like a business. They should lose that tax-exempt status. And we're certainly working, all of us who are critics of Scientology are working to make that happen. It's getting somebody in Congress to pay attention